Thank you everyone for joining us tonight for the Healthy Hustle, where we talk about all things algae related and the wonderful benefits that come with it. We're really lucky to have our special guest with us tonight, Barbara Swanson. She is the author of Beyond Foods. And Barbara, how long have you actually been consuming this algae for?
24 years.
Okay, and consuming this algae for 24 years. It's safe to say she is an expert when it comes to this algae. Barbara, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Wait a second. 91, 2001, 2000. Make that 30 years.
30 years.
30 years.
We had a recount, folks.
Had a recount.
The final answer is 30 years. So, Barbara, we're going to talk about algae tonight. And as we like to say here at New Earth, it's one of the most profoundly nourishing foods on the planet. So I'm just going to go ahead and be quiet because you have 30 years of consuming this. You have written a book. You have studied this. So if you can just share, how this product is so unique and what it can do for others, I'll just go ahead and be quiet.
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much, Nicole. And thanks everybody for coming on. So algae is one of the most profoundly nourishing foods on the planet, and Body is our pure algae product. It is harvested, cleaned and cooled immediately, like on the harvest boat. It is finished being cleaned and frozen within a matter of mere hours. And then it is very carefully dried with nearly zero loss of nutrient value. So why do we say so profoundly nourishing? Well, algae, and in particular blue-green algae, and in particular microalgae, were the first foods on our planet that would feed life as we know it. Animals, insects, that whole plethora of living beings we have on our planet. And ultimately, when you get right down to the science, for the science part of it, in our DNA, the way that we are constructed, our DNA was created in response to the nutrients found in this very ancient food. Our DNA was created in response to the nutrients found in ancient algae. So on that very deepest level of who we are, this is the food that helped to create the template for how we live. And that is profound and profoundly nourishing. Another thing that it means to me is that you don't have to eat a lot of it. Most of us, when we think of eating healthy foods, part of the issue can be cost, honestly. Organic and healthy foods can cost more than something you buy at a fast food joint. And also how much you have to eat. I mean, there's very few people out there who want to eat a bucket load of broccoli, for example, or a whole head of cabbage, or go on and on and on. I mean, that gets to be a lot. But this food is a microalgae, and a microalgae means everything that comes in it comes in a little micro packet. And what that means to us is that it's incredibly bioavailable for our bodies. Those nutrients are in smaller amounts, but they are available to us as is. In all honesty, for some of them, no digestion even required. So instead of eating 8 ounces of steak where you need stomach acid to break apart the protein bonds, you need to have more stomach acid to break apart more protein bonds. You need time in your gut for the bonds to continue to breaking down. You need the right bacteria for the bonds to continue to break down. You need your pancreas and other organs feeding your gut enzymes to help continue to break that down, so that ultimately, eventually, that steak becomes amino acids. And those amino acids are the building block of our bodies, our muscles, our heart muscle, everything needs an amino acid, basically, in human life, in any life. Well, algae is already just the amino acids. There's no breakdown time needed. It's not going to sit in your gut for hours. It doesn't need a lot of stomach acid to break apart bonds. They're naturally tiny, tiny units. which means we can assimilate them into our systems very quickly with very little vitality sap. So for example, people who are athletes, people who are on the go, people who may have compromised digestion, this is a food that can be incredibly beneficial, as is nothing else required. And that makes it unique in the world. As little as a gram a day, teaspoon and a half a day is going to feed you pretty profoundly. And for me, I have definitely noticed this. I have so many benefits. I don't have mood swings like I had at one point in my life. That went away very quickly when I added this to my diet. I very rarely feel under the weather. If I do feel under the weather, I typically feel better much more quickly than anyone else around me. I've had some extreme health challenges due to car accidents and other things like that that were out of my control. And I've healed very quickly. My body's ability to do what it needs to do is pretty optimal. And I do give this food as one of my main reasons why I think that's true. And of course, I have good genetics, no doubt, but this is a food that does make a difference in my life. Nicole, is there any questions you have?
No, I just want to comment on what you said. I was writing down some notes. The point that you made about DNA is so fascinating. It just kind of shows you, like, it takes it down to the root, right? Down to the core. And then the bioavailable factor and the amount that you mentioned, the amount for the benefit and the bioavailability of the algae, and the fact that our bodies don't need a whole lot of time to break it down and can easily assimilate it. That's what we want our food to do. We want our food to nourish us, and in a way that's simple, then it doesn't take a whole lot of energy. So I love that you brought those points up, and then paired with the benefits that you mentioned that you've experienced yourself. You're the second person today that I spoke with who mentioned mood, and how you don't get those mood swings, and that's a benefit that we don't speak about a lot. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And then of course, things like recovery time and just general health. So you just brought up some phenomenal topics tonight. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm just so grateful to have this in my life. I mean, this is the very first thing I buy every month. It is the very first food I put in my body every morning.
A great way to start the day and end the day, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Barbara, we're going to keep these short and sweet. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing those wonderful facts and tidbits about our organic wild microalgae and body, to be more specific. Thank you all for joining us, and we will catch up with you this Thursday to talk a little bit more about our algae and what it has to offer.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Barbara. Take care.
Bye.